Welcome back to Man Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. As you can see what's going on a lovely island Fawnhollow today, where again it's a Sunday and usually we would be doing a Happy in Paradise customization, but of course you've had I say you, that's very sort of accusatory. There's been 4 uploads of Happy in Paradise in like the past 4 days, so I am just not going to do one today because I can't be bothered. So we're just going to talk about whatever, we're going to continue the saga of talking about my holiday in Venice and that sort of thing. I don't really know what to talk about today because it's not like we've done particularly like anything crazy in Venice. Mostly it's kind of known for its canals, its gondolas, and Italian food. I guess we can talk about food. We'll see. Hello everyone. We're in Fawnhallow at 6:02 p.m. on Sunday, September 25th, 2022. Yeah, okay, Kiki is here because a bug off was yesterday, which we didn't participate in, but that's fine. I don't know, because food is, I said my bits and pieces about it. I don't hate food or anything like that, but it's the sort of thing where I'm just like, I don't really, if I was like, you had to give up food for the rest of your life, or you had to give up something else, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that would be equivalent, like sort of luxury, like the restfulness that you get from sleep. Actually, no, I would give up sleep over giving up eating. But okay, but basically the sort of long and short what I'm trying to say is that food is not like a be all end all for me and that sort of thing. But at least got some nice food, and I certainly do like pastas quite a lot. Venice has certainly had a lot of seafood and that sort of thing, and we went to quite a few restaurants to really try out a load of different food. It's an interesting thing because at least the thing I noticed in at least the restaurants we went to is that the restaurants tend to be quite focused, I suppose, as in they don't have many we don't have a huge amount of like choices that you can always make. Like, because one of the ones we went to, they're like, as it happens in Italy, what you normally have is you have like I believe an aperitif, which is like the starter, quite, then you have a first course, a primo something, I don't remember what it's called, which is basically the filling, the carb heavy portion of your meal, which is meant to fill you up, like pasta, risottos, maybe other things like that. And you have a second meal, which is like the meats generally, or the fish or whatever, the sort of the main course, but it doesn't have like spaghetti or anything to go along with it. So it might be like a meat, it might be like fish, etc. And then you have like a dessert or whatever afterwards. Obviously things aren't always structured like that, but that's okay. I thought like a special event was happening because I was like, I'd never seen Harriet and Red both stare at one of the paintings before. That was weird. But yeah, that's sort of how the structure of Italian meals go. It's not always like that, of course, but it's just at least how it was according to like Wikipedia or whenever I looked it up. I don't think I ever had like a double course meal because that's honestly quite a lot of food. I don't eat that much food, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I eat like a average to maybe slightly below average amount of food. I'm not often, like I said this before, I'm not sure if I said this in Animal Crossing, but I don't take a lot of food to feel satiated, but I actually have like, it's sort of like the bare minimum food I need is quite low, but the bare maximum food I can eat is quite high. So, I can eat a lot of food. It's just like, I don't feel the need to a lot of time. I, eat till I feel satiated. Maybe it's just like a sandwich or something, and that's enough. And then I just sort of like vibe. But I was having a particularly fancy meal with like particularly nice food. It's been like, try this, try that. Then, I'll eat a lot of different food or whatever and, fill myself up. But yeah, yeah, that's how the Italian sort of like restaurant structure goes. But there's a lot of seafood there. You might be like, oh, you're not really much of a seafood person. I kind of, here and there. I'm not like super into seafood. I would say I would not say it's like one of my defining favorite foods or anything. I like bits and pieces. Like I like octopus. I think it's quite nice. Eel is definitely my favorite. Squid, crab are both reasonable. I think fish in general, I'm like fine with. Like I don't. Like, don't get me wrong, there are very few foods I would not eat or hate, actively dislike. I would still eat basically anything you gave me as a meal. But most of the choices were seafood options. I don't know, it's always weird when you go to a restaurant because trying to decide what you want to eat is always a weird sort of thing when you look at all the foods and sometimes you go through a restaurant and you read each thing and you go to one of them, you're like, oh, that sounds delicious, I'm gonna have that. At some restaurants I was like, I'd be like, oh, ravioli, ricotta and spinach ravioli, that sounds delicious, I'm gonna have that because I quite like ravioli. And ricotta cheese is quite nice as well. But sometimes you go to restaurants, you look down everything and you'd be like, these all feel like the same sort of thing to me. I don't, I'm pretty indifferent to the entire thing. And it's sort of just like, oh, what food do I end up choosing? Like what sort of like restaurant food am I going to finally settle on? I don't know. There's no sort of option. And of course, everyone's quite different when we come to ordering food. Some people, you know, like they scope out the restaurant beforehand, they look at the menu, be like, this is what I'm going to have. Some people are just like, I'm not even going to look at the menu until, you know, the waiter comes. And then I'm going to be like, all right, look at something, and then immediately order the first thing, which I'm like, that sounds kind of good. Me, I'm certainly somewhere in between. You know, if it's a meal I'm particularly, like, interested in or, like, curious about, I'll go look at the menu and, like, think about what I might want. But a lot of times I'm sort of like, come see, come sad about it. You know, I kind of have whatever, you know, sometimes in restaurants I visit a lot, like Nando's or that something, I usually just get the one thing because I've kind of tried most other things on the menu, and it's kind of, I basically, usually how it goes, I'll try lots of different things on the menu until I find a thing I like, and then I'll just basically have that every time I get to a restaurant, most times. Nando's is actually kind of different recently because basically, Nando's is basically my go-to restaurant of choice when I go out with my friends. It's sort of like an in-between of like a restaurant and fast food, and it's nice, and it's very sort of like generally appealing, which is why it's so popular, especially in the UK. You know, you probably heard the term cheeky Nando's and that sort of thing. It's very popular in London. I'm going to say here in London, I'm not like really in London, but still. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about this. Yeah, and like I had most things on the Nando's menu. It's just like most of the time I ended up going for like a burger, a pita, or specifically the Sunset Burger, because that ends up being my favourite. But recent times I've been to Nando's, I'm like, all right, let's start experimenting again. Like, you know, do it all anew, as if like it's the first time I've been to this restaurant again. And I've started having the vegetarian options, and honestly, the vegetarian options are kind of awesome in Nando's. I'm not gonna lie, like. I think certainly as I get older, I'm sort of like, I'm not as much of a meat person as I was when I was younger. You know, when I was younger, I'm like bacon, I love chicken. That's basically it. Like, I wasn't I like some beef, I like some pork, but I'm not going to say I'm crazy about them. I didn't particularly like lamb, but I'd still eat it if you gave it to me. Nowadays, I'm like, you know, I can give up all that. You know, chicken's basically the only meat I actively would be like, I like. Like, I would actively choose to have a chicken meal over another meal. But, like, the vegetarian options are, like, really good a lot of the time, you know. Spinach ricotta, delicious. And it actually was delicious. It was ravioli at some random restaurant. I had like a gnocchi. It was like a tomato sauce based gnocchi with mozzarella on top. Absolutely delicious. Completely vegetarian as far as I know as well. But yeah, it's always a difficult thing when you go into a restaurant and you read all the things and you're sort of like, I don't really know what to get because I'm not like particularly infused by any of them. And it's happened a few times, like especially in Venice of restaurants. I look at them and be like, oh, you know, what's that option number one? Like a lobster tagliatelle or something. I'm like, that sounds alright, you know. And I don't hate lobster or anything, but I'm not like crazy about it. And the next one's like squid ink spaghetti or that sort of thing. You know, there's like the black spaghetti dyed by like cuttlefish or squid ink. And I'm like, I don't really fancy my teeth and like mouth getting all like dyed by the ink. So I'm just sort of like, I'll give that a pass. And you can look at the next thing. And next thing is like a risotto. I'm like, I'm not crazy about risottos or that sort of thing. And then you like, oh, there's only like 3 options basically. So what am I going to get? I mean, you sort of like go, ha. And then you eventually set on an option because sometimes you just sort of like randomly choose one, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you get surprised. Like a gnocchi one was one which I didn't expect to go for because at that place I was strongly considering getting a double meal because they had like a set course thing. It was really cheap for €13. You can get like both the main meal, the second meal, and like a side dish with it. And I was strongly considering getting it, but I was like, oh, it's only a lunchtime meal. I think it's a bit heavy. Because if I did do that, I was gonna get the carbonara, I was gonna get the meat and the ham. I forgot what it's called. Like, it's not prosciutto and formaggio, but it's like, I don't remember what the Italian word for this ham thing is. And then like a side of like, I don't know, chips or something. I mean the options were like spinach, which I shouldn't have too much of because it like it contributes like high iron and blood, and I have like incredibly high iron in my blood for some apparent reason. I forgot what the other one is, to be honest. So I was like, I don't know, potato chips. I was strongly considering getting that, and I was looking through the menu because I was like, I'm not particularly infused by like all this other thing. I was like seafood pasta and like seafood spaghetti or something. And I was like, I do like seafood's okay, but I'm not crazy about seafood or anything like that. I don't like see seafood on the menu and be like, yes, get in. I'm like, seafood on the menu, that's a food item. So and then there was nothing else that particularly sort of like jumped out at me, and then you know. I sort of just randomly chose the gnocchi, the tomato-based sauce gnocchi with mozzarella, and I was like, that sounds alright. And I had it, and it was honestly quite delicious. I actually quite like gnocchi, I'm not gonna lie, but gnocchi is so incredibly filling. I don't really know what it is, except for like it's quite dense. I don't know if it counts as a pasta, I'm gonna be honest, but I mean, of course, if I talk about gnocchi, if you're any sort of online, you probably know that sort of video about a person calling gnocchi, and he keeps laughing at it as it keeps like popping up or something. Anyway, so gnocchi is a varied family of dumpling in Italian cuisine. Yeah, actually, gnocchi, kind of delicious. Is what I say: wheat flour, egg, salt, and potato. It's incredibly filling, of course, because it's basically you're just eating like a bowl of potatoes or whatever covered in sauce. And the carbs are absolutely crazy. I'm not gonna lie. And I probably have put on a weight since the holiday, so I certainly need to lose a bit more weight. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. I'm gonna be honest. Excuse me, but I don't know. Yeah, like ordering at a restaurant. It's just like deciding what food you want is always pretty difficult. Especially at those times where it's just like you look at food and you're like, oh, I don't know what I really want, you know. Which is why at like some points I've got to, you know, give respect to the name of like fast food sort of places. A lot of fast food places, you know, I always have something I want, you know. At the end of the day, like I will never like end up turning down like a breaded fried chicken something, you know, chicken burger, like a chicken zinger burger, chicken nuggets, chicken selects, that something. I just, you know, I'll never turn them down. So, you know, I got to give respect at least to the fast food restaurants, because I never gone to any fast food restaurants and been like, oh, you know, there's nothing here I want. I've always wanted something from a fast food restaurant. It's always been like, yeah, I could be down with that sort of thing. But it's sort of like with caveat, when you go to a fancy restaurant, obviously the food is a lot higher quality than you would expect from like your local McDonald's or KFC or whatever. But it's also just like sometimes you'll just be like, you know, I'm not really feeling any of these foods today. Which is weird to talk about from me personally, because I'm, you know, I'm quite notoriously, I'm not very picky when it comes to food. I sort of like eat whatever. I'm quite unbothered by grapefruit trees, flowers, deep sea creatures. Okay, this is a bit of a weird combination. I'm quite particularly unbothered about like sort of food that I have access to, so I'm just like, you know, I'll eat whatever. But I don't know, I guess if anything, it's a bit revealing that I do end up having like preferences for food and that sort of thing. It's just sort of like, we're not crazy. It's sort of like, if not given the option, I don't care, you know. It's food is food. I just eat the food anyway, or if I'm given like 2 or 3 options. But you know, when I'm given a bit more, you know, like up to like 6, 7, 8 of that sort of thing, then I start like getting a little bit of fatigue on it, being like, you know, I don't really care about any of these. You know, my investment in these food items presented in front of me, I'm just like, I could take them or leave them, you know. Ain't really all that big a deal for me. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about this, but yeah, the food items, take them or leave them, is essentially sort of how it goes. And like ordering at a restaurant, then sometimes, I mean, like I can understand why people get stressed out like ordering food, you know, like talk to a waiter or waitress, especially if you're like quite introverted. You're like, you know, like life-threatening or something. Especially when I was younger, you know, perhaps I'd agree with you more to that point. But now, you know, I see it more as sort of just like a business transaction at the end of the day, you know. At the end of the day, the waiter and waitress, they're just doing a job. They want you to have a nice time, obviously. They're not like actively bad people, hopefully. And they just feel like you want food, and you know, you're not actively a bad person. You want food, you know. Just have pleasant exchanges. There's no way to describe a spider. It doesn't make it sound like a bad time, man. Can't be done. Thanks for that. Words of wisdom, Pascal. Yeah, but like the stressful part is not really like actually, you know, like ordering, you know, trying to get the waiter's attention, being like, excuse me, and then they like walk past you and you're like, oh, okay, you know, that happens. Like whatever, who cares? It's just like figuring out what you want to eat, you know, trying to decide, like looking. Especially, you know, especially worse than like options of restaurants you haven't been to, and there's huge amounts of options. You're like, I don't know if is this going to be any good, and like if it's a restaurant you just like randomly walked into it. And sometimes, you know, it's just kind of like life. You know, you'll get some hits, you'll get some misses. You might walk into a random restaurant, and you'll be like, this might be an absolute hidden gem. This is delicious. I love it. Like that was one which like happened in university. Like I can't even remember why. I think it was just like I really wanted to try poutine. And then I searched in local places, be like, where can I get poutine? And then there was like this bar like turned up, and I was like, it's not a bar, it was like a sandwich joint or something. And I was like, okay, and then try it. And I was like, one of my friends wanted to go out to eat, and I was like, why don't we try this place? You know, I was kind of curious about it. Went there, and it basically just became a staple whenever we went out to eat. It's like that was sort of like the go-to one, because it was actually delicious. It was incredible, and like we went back there multiple times. It was just an absolute classic of a place to eat at. Sometimes you get gems like that, and sometimes you get sort of like misses, you know. We went to one restaurant in Venice, It was okay, and I'm not going to say it was actively bad because that's, you know, misrepresenting. I think it was quite a pleasant atmosphere, and some things were good, some things were bad. Like I had like a meal. It was okay, is probably what I'd say. It had very expensive beer from what I remember. It was like €5 for a bottle of beer, which is crazy because at least in Venice you can buy them from a supermarket for like the same bottle for like 80 cents. So it's an incredible markup. I mean, there's incredible markup in a lot of restaurant food, and for a lot of it, I understand. You know, the food itself makes sense. You're basically paying for the convenience cost and the ingredients cost, of course, and the experience of the chef themselves cooking like a fantastic meal. But the drinks is sort of just like, you know, it's only being marked up to turn a profit. Because to be fair, restaurants, as I understand, the food industry in general works on quite thin margins. So, you know, apparently we haven't spoken to media for a while. It works on quite thin margins in the first place, so, you know, I don't blame them, but it's sort of just like, it's quite discouraging to be, you know, I'm willing to overspend on food from a restaurant because I'm just like, you're cooking it for me, you're making it delicious by adding a heck ton, lots of butter and salt or whatever, and, you know, I just don't have a guilt of thinking about it. I'm paying for like the nice atmosphere, the place to sit down, etc., and like a central area to sort of like hang out with my friends. But the drinks itself, it's not like whatever. Like there's this one restaurant I went to, like one time we were going to like the movies. Generally, of course, we go to Nando's, but a new restaurant opened up, and we were like, "Hey, should we try this restaurant?" We went to it, and it was sort of like it was like a weird dessert lounge, but it also served like savory ingredients. It looked super Instagram-esque, is probably how I describe it. Like the decorations were very like, you could totally see someone like taking a nice picture of them on Instagram, that sort of thing. And, you know, we had our food, and I had like two of my friends. They had like crepes or like some waffles or something. They were like, it's not great, you know, because we have like a go-to dessert lounge which we go to, and food is delicious. Yeah, actual desserts, and we get them from there. And we went to this one, we had desserts, and we're like, it's really cold for some reason. But like the waffle and the crepe they had was surprisingly cold, and I was like, I'm not really much of a sweet tooth, so I'm gonna have savory food. So I had like loaded fries about something, and I was just like, they're okay, you know. And I'm not going to be like, we're amazing anything, and if anything, I'd say they're kind of on the lower end of loaded fries. But the crazy thing is, like, of course, because the water was not free. Like, they didn't even serve tap water, which is wild in the UK, because in the UK, it's sort of like, apparently, as the law goes, if it is a place which serves, is it like it serves alcohol, or if it's like registered as some specific like eatery location, you have to be able to you legally have to serve tap water for free. Is like a literal requirement. But there's some like regulations where, because of a classification of like restaurants in UK, if you classify as this sort of thing, you don't have to, and the only way you can give water is by charging for it. So this place only like served water, but you had to buy it as a price, which, you know, is quite common in restaurants. You wouldn't be surprised to buy a bottle of water, but in the UK it was kind of wild as well. You know, I'm very used to sort of like ordering tap water and just getting some for free. It's just weird. Anyway, we never come back there because the food was so mediocre. I don't know how we're doing, you know. Let me look them up, because what's it called? That's what it's called. I'm obviously not going to say it out loud, because, you know, I'm not going to put them on blast or anything. But it's not like it could have been better, you know. I was not thrilled by that sort of thing. Sorry, let me have a sip of water. Yeah, I think it's a very pretty place, but it's sort of like, would I go there for food? Nah, you know, honestly, I would just go to Nando's, to be honest. All style, no substance. Place is beautiful. Food, however, is not great. You know, that's it. Basically how I describe it. If you want a pretty picture, you go to that place. It looks so fancy. The presentation is great. It's decorations and scenery, amazing. Food itself, but you're not paying for the food, is hopefully the attitude you sort of come at it with. I don't know if it deserves 1 star. I think 3 star, like, people, like, 5 star rating is so like rubbish, because people are just like, everything gets 5 or 4 stars, to be perfectly honest. Like, the entire rating system is defeated by the purpose of like 5 stars is the average, not the average, but it's like the average alright service. Like, you know, as long as, I mean, I suppose if anything, I'm quite a hypocrite, because I suppose I've sort of fallen into something where, as well. But like, if I was to give a rating something, it'd be like, as long as it, you know, I had a fine time there and like it wasn't ostentiously bad, I'd be like, I'll give it 5 stars. And even if it was quite bad, I'd be like, maybe I'll give it like 4 or 3 stars. I would only give something 2 or 1 stars if it was like crazy. Like, 1 star would have to be something really bad happened and it really put me off it. 2 stars would be like something bad happened, but it has redeeming qualities. 3 stars would be like it was subpar. 4 stars would be like, you know, it was okay. You know, only small things like particularly missing from it is what I'd say. And then 5 stars would be like, you know, it just like nothing particularly bad happened. So that's how I go about rating. I don't know. You might do ratings differently, but like the 5-star system and rating things is quite messed up. Not messed up in a bad way, like wow, it's so corrupt, but it's sort of just like it's a bit fruitless in the end, isn't it? So many rating sort of systems are like the amount of skew which gets put towards like the 70%, like 90% range in any sort of rating system is ridiculous. What's the point of the rest of the scale if it's not being used? My statistical mind complains about. But yeah. I forgot what I was going to say about this. Anyway, ordering at a restaurant. I'm trying to think of like any ordering from restaurant stories. Like I didn't really have much to say about Venice. Food was good. It's basically all I can really say. You know, a lot of tasty food. A lot of like, not a lot, but some food was like meh. Pizzas. Despite the fact that apparently Venice is not particularly known for pizzas. Pizza's more like a southern Italy thing, I think. But you know, it had some. I had like this like sandwich thing. It was a nice cafe place. That was particularly delicious. Quite liked that. Trying to think of anything else particularly noteworthy, which was not just like wow, this is like just generically good food. I think really talked about it. I'm just trying to think of like a story about ordering at a restaurant. I will tell this one. You know, I'm calling out to two of my university friends. Where we went to Croatia for like a little holiday, and then like we ordered a little bit of wine. You know, we weren't really like friends I was with weren't really wine drinkers, or like one of them didn't really drink alcohol all that often, and the other one drank from time to time, but like didn't really drink wine, that sort of thing. And I basically only drink wine with my family. Like I don't really care about alcohol. If it's sort of like people drink it, I'll drink as well. If they don't, then I don't really care. Drink responsibly, kids. And so we ordered a wine, like a local wine, from one of these restaurants. And then I went to the bathroom. And apparently, you know, like neither of my friends had ordered like wine from a restaurant before. If you don't know, let me explain to you that basically they'll bring out a bottle of wine, they'll show you a wine and be like, is this what you ordered? And you'll be like, yes. And they'll be like, do you want to try it? And then you go, yes. Or they might be like, who wants to try it? Like who? Basically, you need to basically designate one person to be the taster, and then they pour you like a tiny amount of it. You like pick it up, you swirl it around, you can give it a little sniff, you drink it, you like, you know, sip on it a little bit, you know, enjoy it. And then most of the time you go like, yep, that's perfectly fine. Yep, this bottle's good. And you'll be on your way. And you might be like, what was the whole point of rigmarole with that? Well, probably if you're like a sommelier, you actually know what you're looking for when you're looking at a bottle of wine. You're checking it. You'd be like, is this the actual, you know, am I getting ripped off? Is this the actual bottle of wine I wanted? Is this actually like a good make or not? And like just like reaching in the back for like something like a discount version or whatever. This is actually like the bottle of wine you want. And then, you know, at that point you could be like, you taste it and you'd be like, oh no, this is not what I want. I want to order something else. And then I don't really know what restaurant does. So they just have like an open bottle of wine. I guess that's something which is like considered in their margins. But anyway, you just be like, if you're a normal person, you know, if you're not a sommelier, if you're not that picky or whatever, you just be like, oh yeah, that's perfect, thank you. And then like, go around pouring things. Anyway, so some of my friends like had never ordered a bottle of wine from a restaurant once, so they didn't know that before. And the waiter came and being like, is this what you ordered? And they were like, yeah. And they would be like, who would like to try it? And they'd be like, and they were just like, who wants to drink a wine? Like everyone, I guess. And there was like a lot of back and forth where they didn't really understand what was going on. Until it was a very funny story. And then like one of my friends was just like, okay, you try it. Because they didn't really know what was going on. He tried it and he was like, yep, that's good. I think about it like, not every day, but obviously, but like, I think about it sometimes. I'm just like, oh, what a funny story. Not very funny the way I told it because obviously I'm kind of like paraphrasing the entire thing, but it's a very sort of funny thing to, come back from the bathroom and me, them like laughing and telling me the story, basically being like they had no idea what was going on, and that was that. But yeah, apart from that, I'm going to round off this episode here, I think. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares, I'd greatly appreciate it. Join me, Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's all farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now. Fawn did not care about me there.